Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 6th canto, 15th chapter, and we're going to read from the 17th through the 19th verse, of which the second part of the 19th verse is up on the board. So we'll do that first and chant that together, and then we can just chant the rest of it. Is that okay? Okay. Anugrahaya Bhavata Praptav Avam Iha Prabho Brahmanyo Bhagavad Bhakto Navasaditum Arhasi Anugrahaya Bhavata Praptavavam Miha Prabho Brahmano Bhagavad Bhakto Navasaditum Arhasi Anugrahaya Bhavata Praptavaham Miha Prabho Brahmanyo Bhagavata Bhakto Navasaditam Arhasi. Okay. All right, so I'll just read the Roman transliteration for 17, and then the beginning of 18, and then I'll read the translation. Shri Angira Uvacha Aham Te Putra Kamasa Putradasmi Angira Nripa Esha Brahma Sutta Sakshan Narado Bhagavan Rishi Itam Tvam Putra Shokena Magnam Tamasi Dustare Atad Arham Anusmritya Mahaparusha Gocharam. And then Anugrahaya Bhavata Praptavaham Avam Iha Prabho Brahmanyo Bhagavad Bhakto Navasaditam Arhasi. Translation. Angira said, "My dear king, when you desired to have a son, I approached you. Indeed, I am the same Angira Rishi who gave you this son. As for this Rishi, he is the great sage Narada, the direct son of Lord Brahma." Translation. My dear king, you are an advanced devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To be absorbed in lamentation for the loss of something material is unsuitable for a person like you. Therefore, we have both come to relieve you from this false lamentation, which is due to your being merged in the darkness of ignorance. For those who are advanced in spiritual knowledge, to be affected by material loss and gain is not at all desirable. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Several words in this verse are very important. The word Mahaparusha refers to advanced devotees and also to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maha means the supreme, and Purusha means person. One who always engages in the service of the Supreme Lord is called a Mahaparushika. Shukadev Goswami and Maharaj Pariksit are sometimes addressed as Mahaparushika. A devotee should always aspire to engage in the service of advanced devotees. As Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung, Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanevas Janame Janame Hoy Eabilas. A devotee should always aspire to live in the association of advanced devotees and engage in the service of the Lord through the Parampara system. One should serve the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through the instructions of the great Goswamis of Vrindavan. This is called Tandera Charana Sevi. While serving the lotus feet of the Goswamis, one should live in the association of devotees. Bhakta Sane Vas. This is the business of a devotee. A devotee should not aspire for material profit or lament for material loss. When Angira Rishi and Narada saw that Maharaj Chitraketu, an advanced devotee, had fallen in the darkness of ignorance and was lamenting for the material body of his son, by their causeless mercy, they came to advise him so he could be saved from this ignorance. Another significant word is Brahmanya. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is sometimes addressed by the prayer Namo Brahmanya Devaya, which offers obeisances unto the Supreme Lord because he is served by the devotees. Therefore, this verse states, Brahmanyo Bhagavad Bhakto Navasaditam Arhasi. This is the symptom of an advanced devotee, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. For a devotee, an advanced, self-realized soul, there is no cause for material jubilation or lamentation. He is always transcendental to conditional life. Vishnu Budaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane, Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha, Shinyavadi Paskatya Deshatarne. So this is a very nice verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we can understand that the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's a spotless Purana. Spotless because there's nothing. It actually explains in the beginning, in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that it completely rejects all material religious principle or all religious principles that are materially motivated. And it is only there for the ultimate realization of Krishna consciousness. So this Srimad Bhagavatam, it was compiled by Srila Vyasadeva in the maturity of his devotional service, and it's not meant for material activities. It completely rejects all those activities. So that's what it means to be an advanced devotee. An advanced devotee has no real desire in this material world. An advanced devotee, his only desire is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the result of that is that the devotee, he is only thinking, how can I please Krishna? He's not thinking, what is in it for me? Because in this material world, generally speaking, everyone is thinking like that. Everyone, that's why we've come here. We've come to this material world, to this Mrityu Loka, to this place of death, because we wanted to try to independently enjoy from Krishna. So that's why we came here, and that's why we're here. It explains that we've been in this material world since time immemorial. Anadi karama phale. That means we really can't trace out how long we've been in this material world. Srila Prabhupada said it doesn't really matter. And someone asked him the question, how long, can we tell how long we've been here? Srila Prabhupada said it doesn't matter. We just suffice it to say that we've been here for long enough. So devotional service means, bhakti-yoga means coming into contact with a pure devotee. And if we come into contact with a pure devotee, then our sojourn in this material world starts to end. So that's the idea in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It completely rejects all material religious principles that are motivated. So it's not that we are desireless. It is not that we don't have desire. But we simply have to transfer our desire from the material world into our desire for the spiritual world. So that's what Srila Prabhupada did when he came to America back in the mid-60s. He completely came for that reason. He had no material desire. He had no material motivation. Materially speaking, he shouldn't have come. He was being told by many people here in Vrindavan, why would you leave here? This is such a beautiful place. This is such a sacred place. This is so auspicious. You love it here so much. Why would you go to America? What do you want? You want to go sightseeing? Do you want to see something in America? But Srila Prabhupada, he had no desire. He said, I am an old man. I have nothing to see over in America. What would he go for? No, so he didn't go to America. He didn't come to America to tour the country or to see something. He came to give what everybody in the whole world didn't have, and that's Krishna consciousness. So that's what he did. Before he came to America, he also translated the first three volumes, the first three cantos of the first three volumes of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And by doing that, he was actually breaking open the storehouse of love of God. It explains that when Lord Chaitanya came, actually when Krishna came first, the storehouse of love of God, it was sealed. And Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita that you have to surrender unto me, and as you surrender unto me, I will reward you accordingly. But when Lord Chaitanya came at the Panchatattva, when Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya, he actually broke open that seal. And the way he broke it open was by giving it out for free. So that is Lord Chaitanya. He's the most munificent avatar because he is giving what nobody else has ever given. So he is even merciful. He is Krishna's merciful incarnation. He's Mahavaranaya. He gives all mercy to everyone. No one, it doesn't matter. Patita Pavana. Actually, the more fallen you are, the more that Lord Chaitanya will give you the mercy. So that is what Srila Prabhupada did. That is the mood that Srila Prabhupada had. He was in the mood of the 6 Goswamis. Here in Vrindavan, the famous 6 Goswamis, they were living under trees. They had nothing. They forgot to eat, they forgot to sleep. They weren't doing any of those things. It wasn't because they didn't know what they were doing. Why? Why did they forget to eat? And why did they forget to sleep? Because they were absorbed in the pastimes of Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani. They were completely absorbed in those pastimes. So they forgot, and they were tasting those pastimes so much that they forgot to eat and they forgot to sleep. Well, the same way with Srila Prabhupada. He's a Mahabhagwat. He said that he was in the spiritual world, and Krishna asked him to come to write this book right here. And he said, I don't really want to go. But Krishna said, no, if you just go, I'll take care of everything, so please just go. So Prabhupada said, okay, I'll go. So that's why Prabhupada came. Srila Prabhupada came to this world to write these books. These books are eternal. Srila Prabhupada said his books are eternal. He said the devotees, they may come, they may go. He said the temples, they may come and they may go. But my books, they are eternal. So these books that Srila Prabhupada has written, these are actually the real law books. These are the law books for the next 10,000 years for the golden age of Kali. So if we want to understand bhakti-yoga, if we want to understand Krishna consciousness, all we have to do is look at these law books. It's like Prabhupada said, if you want to be a lawyer, then you have to go and you have to get trained up by a lawyer. You can't just put a shingle out on your house and then all of a sudden decide, I'm going to practice law. But you actually have to become qualified. So the same way, in anything that we do, we have to become qualified. So Srila Prabhupada, he felt he could have come by himself even before, even without writing the books, because he's a Mahabhagwat. So whatever he would have done would have been very potent anyway. But because he knows past, present, and future, he's Trikalagya. He is a Mahabhagwat of the highest order. We have no idea how advanced Srila Prabhupada is and was. We have no idea. So he came with that. He came with these books. So now, he said, someone asked him before he left, they said, well, what will happen when you leave, Srila Prabhupada? Where will you go? He said, I will never die. I will live forever within my books, and you will utilize. So we have to utilize Srila Prabhupada's books to keep him alive. If we don't read his books, if we don't study his books, if we don't distribute his books, if we don't glorify his books, if we're not mad about his books, then we won't keep Srila Prabhupada alive. Because we can all see the nature of this material world is that it's always deteriorating. Krishna says, time I am, and I've come to engage everyone. So this material world and time, it is engaging everything in a very self-destructive process. So that's what's happening. But Srila Prabhupada's books, they can't be destroyed. You see, Prabhupada said they should have destroyed it before he came. If they destroyed it before he came in, then they would have been okay. But he said he went in like a needle and he came out like a plow. That's what Srila Prabhupada did. So these books are here. The damage is already done. Srila Prabhupada said that the damage is already done. The form is set. So now he told us that now we just have to fill it in. So fill it in means reading Prabhupada's books, getting realizations from Prabhupada's books, studying Prabhupada's books, associating with devotees that are associating with Prabhupada's books, and then distributing these books. Srila Prabhupada actually said his temples, he said actually devotees don't need temples. Brahmacharis, sannyasis, they can travel all around. They don't need temples. They can just travel and preach. They can live on the holy name. But because deity worship is very important in our stage of bhakti-yoga, then temples are very nice and the deities are very important to get our mind regulated and to get our mind concentrated so that we can go preach. And for people that want to come and see Krishna and understand him for the first time, temples are very important. Therefore, this grand temple was inaugurated by Srila Prabhupada in 1975 with so much hard work. So even though Srila Prabhupada, he didn't build these temples to live in, because Srila Prabhupada, the whole time that he was here, he didn't live in any temple. Nobody could slow him down. He was working, he was moving, he was preaching, he was serving harder than anyone. Nobody could keep up with Srila Prabhupada. It was unbelievable. At his age, he was doing all that. So he set this all up for us, and then he left, you see. He left, and so he left it for us. So what do we do with it? You see, we inherited Prabhupada's everything that he gave us. So now he told us also, at least maintain what I have given. Don't let it deteriorate. So that's what we have to do. We are in there's different types of, actually just like when Krishna left the planet, it was explained, where does Krishna reside? So after Srila Prabhupada leaves, there's Vani and there's Vapu. There's two things. There's the physical association, and then there's the words of the spiritual master. So after the spiritual master leaves, his words, they even become more important than his Vapu. His Vapu is absolutely important. But no one should ever think that just because Srila Prabhupada has left the planet, you still don't have the association of Srila Prabhupada. He says he reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die, because Vaishnavas, they are still living in sound. So Srila Prabhupada is still living in the sound of his books. Srila Prabhupada is still living in the sound of his tapes. Srila Prabhupada is still living in his disciples, or anyone who is representing him. Prabhupada said, my disciples are my agents. They're my representatives. So as much as we follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions and Srila Prabhupada's words, then we become his agents or his representatives. And that's a very heavy responsibility. That's a very wonderful responsibility that he has given us. So really, in order to be his representative and to be his agent, then we have to study very scientifically what is in his books. That's what it means to associate with advanced devotees. Because there's two types of devotees. There's two types of Bhagavat. There's the book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat. And in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, it explains that either both of them or either of them can completely liberate a soul. Well, Srila Prabhupada said one time, if someone just touches one of his books, he's liberated. If someone just touches one of his books, what to speak. Of course, he has to go to the process. We don't take this cheaply. We're not sahajas, so that doesn't mean he just touches a book and now he doesn't have to chant Hare Krishna and go through the process. Srila Prabhupada was teaching us a process of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. It's a very serious process that we go from the beginning stages up to the advanced stage. And we have to understand that we can't skip over any of the activities that will bring us to the highest stage. So that's what it means, Mahajana Yena Gata Sapanta, to follow in the footsteps of the Mahajanas. We have to follow in their footsteps, but not to imitate them. We have to be very careful. We just don't go sit under a tree and try to imitate Haridas Thakur. What we will typically do, a neophyte devotee will just think of money or women or something else, but simply to make a show. That is not there. There's also different kinds of devotees. There's Ghoshjananandis and there's Bhajananandis. So Srila Prabhupada, he was a Ghoshjananandi. He actually came from the higher platform. He came from the Mahabhagavat platform down to the second-class platform out of compassion for us. Out of compassion for the fallen souls of the Kali Yuga, Srila Prabhupada came down to preach to us. He didn't have to come down. He was up on a very elevated platform. Some Mahabhagavats don't come down, and that's okay. They don't have to come down. They're fully satisfied. And their example, like Srila Gaurakishore, he was just chanting all the time. He was a fully liberated Paramahamsa. He only took one disciple. He didn't take disciples. He took Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami. But he was a perfect example of a fully liberated, a fully exalted, and a fully self-realized soul. So there's different kinds of devotees. But Srila Prabhupada, he came and he taught us the philosophy of chanting, dancing, feasting, and feasting. That's what he taught us. So we have to get in that mood. That is the mood we need to catch up. It's not that we've already made it. You see, just like it says you can't get a ticket to Vrindavan. We can't purchase a ticket. All of us, like I've come from America right now, but you can't really purchase a ticket. And even when you're here, you can't just say, I'm in Vrindavan. Therefore, where's Krishna? Oh, I see him. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, even if you go in front of the deities with your present eyes, unless your eyes are anointed with the right salve of love, you will not see Krishna. So we have to work to see Krishna. It says once in a while, sometimes someone gives an honorary degree, but we shouldn't think we're just going to get an honorary degree. We have to understand that we have to work in order to go through the stages of bhakti-yoga and go up to the higher stages. We can't jump over. So we have to take this very seriously. We have to follow Prabhupada's program. Prabhupada gave us a very specific program. Just like when all the devotees were first coming over here in the early 70s, a lot of devotees were getting sick because you do get sick here in India. And he was very concerned that the devotees that they weren't coming to the morning program. So actually, Prabhupada gave us this morning program. He gave us this perfect system for achieving the higher levels of Krishna consciousness. So it explains Krishna consciousness has to be executed with a cool head, and it has to be executed enthusiastically, and it also has to be executed patiently. So we have to be patient, but we have to make sure that we're on the right path. So that's what the Bhagavatam does. It teaches us what is the right path. And our God brothers and God sisters, what they do is they help us stay on that path. What happens if we leave the association of devotees who are totally off the path of Krishna consciousness, they will just lead us on the path of sense gratification. They will not lead us, so we have to really look. And even amongst devotees, we have to look. It's okay. It says that one can, if one sees a devotee who's not of good character, then one can honor that devotee within his mind. One can respect that devotee, and one can pay obeisances to that devotee, but one should serve the Mahabhagavat, the one who is actually far beyond any question of a doubt to be on the highest level of Krishna consciousness. So that's what Srila Prabhupada was and is. He's no longer with us, but he was on that platform. That's why sometimes Srila Prabhupada used to read his own books. Srila Prabhupada would be reading his own books, and someone would come in and see him, and they would say, Srila Prabhupada, you're reading your own book? And he'd say, oh, these are Krishna's books. These are not my books. So these aren't even his books. Prabhupada didn't take credit for anything. So that is a pure devotee. A pure devotee has no motivation. He is not motivated by material desire or material gain. His only motive is to push Krishna in the forefront. So the more, Prabhupada said, if we don't read his books, we'll fall into what was happening here, lamentation, illusion, so many different misconceptions. That's what will happen. Prabhupada said, if you distribute my books, but you don't read my books, then you're acting like Sudras. So you can be a Sudra, although you get some benefit by going out and distributing books. If you're distributing Prabhupada's books, but you're not reading them, it becomes Sudra activity, because you don't understand the books. We have to know what's in these books, because there's so many philosophies, there's so many misconceptions, there's so many people coming saying what is the truth. But if we go back to the ring of truth, the ring of truth means we'll know what it is. If we hear it, if we know what Prabhupada said, if we have that ring of truth, then we can always go back and know. Because Krishna consciousness is also, although it's done between guru and disciple, it is also an individual affair. We all have the individual responsibility to go back to Krishna. We can't just go back to Krishna because we join ISKCON. If you join ISKCON, it's not like a club. It's not Club ISKCON. And you join ISKCON and then you go back to Godhead. It's not like that. Prabhupada said it's a solo flight. He said when we're in flight, like when a group or a flock of birds are in flight, well, they're all flying. But you have to oil your own machine. If you don't oil your own machine, then you're gonna drop off. The flock of birds is gonna keep going, but you're gonna drop off. So ISKCON is an opportunity. ISKCON is a facility for us to work on bhakti yoga. But ultimately, we have to be the own arbiters of our own work in bhakti yoga. Prabhupada said that Krishna consciousness is based on freedom. So it's actually freedom, it's not oppression. Prabhupada always said that Krishna consciousness was based on love and based on trust. It's not based on anything that's forced. There's nothing forced in Krishna consciousness because it comes from the heart. It comes from our direct connection with Krishna. We all have an original relationship with Krishna that's been covered for millions of years. So the guru means one who relieves darkness. So the guru, he is the revealer of the Dham. The guru reveals the Dham. The guru reveals Krishna. The guru reveals everything. So by surrendering to the guru, then we can understand Krishna. So that's the process of bhakti yoga. It's actually a very simple process. Prabhupada said that it was simple for the simple-hearted, and it's difficult for the crooked. So we have to kick out all crooked mentality. We have to kick out all material desires, and we simply have to surrender to the process that Srila Prabhupada has given us in this Krishna consciousness movement. And if we do that, then it's a very simple process. It's a very ecstatic, it's Kevala Ananda Kanda. Krishna consciousness is Kevala Ananda Kanda. It's the process of bliss, but it's not false bliss. A real advanced devotee isn't really interested. Even the gopis, when they were serving Krishna, they weren't very interested in their own activities. They were just looking for Krishna. A real pure devotee, he doesn't even conceive his own bliss. His only happiness is serving Krishna. Just like Srila Prabhupada was asked one time that he said, he was coming off an elevator and they were asking him if he was going to stop. And he said, please, don't take away my privilege to serve Krishna. So even though Srila Prabhupada was an 80-year-old body, he felt it his privilege to serve Krishna. He didn't take it as some kind of entitlement. He didn't take it as some kind of right, you see. So that's the Goswamis. The Goswamis of Vrindavan, they never said they saw Krishna. They were always looking for Krishna. They were mad after Krishna, but they never found him because they actually had him in the separation. Vipralamba Seva. So that was Srila Prabhupada's mood. Srila Prabhupada's mood was work now and samadhi later. We can work now and samadhi later. And if we get into the samadhi, well, that's very nice. But we simply have to have faith that that samadhi will come by the work. Prabhupada said everybody has to be engaged in their occupational duty. Whatever one's psychophysical makeup is and whatever one's good at, then the spiritual master engages that person in an appropriate activity. And by engaging in that appropriate activity and by following the process of Krishna consciousness, then one becomes advanced in devotional service. So that's what we're doing here. That's what this program is. It's not that we've made anything yet. The neophyte disciple, he has to always associate with devotees that are more advanced than him. And he has to always be looking for that association. And he has to always be hankering for that association. And he always has to be in anxiety that he doesn't have that association. Because otherwise, we become complacent. And if we become complacent, that's actually one of the demoniac qualities. One of the demoniac qualities is being complacent and always impudent, you see. So if we're complacent, if we're lazy, it explains in the Bhagavatam that in this age of Kali, people are very lazy. Manda sumanda matayo, manda bhagya hiupudrita. So in this age of Kali, people are very lazy, they're very disturbed, and above all, they're always disturbed. So we're seeing the Kali Yuga is throwing people all over the place. It's throwing the living entities in every different direction. So we actually have to slow it down and just get into the process of Krishna consciousness, of serious Vaidhi Bhakti, because that's the way we will come to the higher stages. And it's not a cheap thing, because it's not something that just happens overnight. We have been in the material world for millions of years, so to come to the higher stage of bhakti is not just going to happen in 1 or 2 minutes. You see, it's not going to happen like that. But we have to keep, Krishna is not looking for what we're giving, but he's looking for what we're holding back. So we know what we're holding back because we're introspective sages. We have to be introspective sages. That means we have to look within. And as we look within, we'll see our own faults, and we'll see our own lack and our own limitation. And by seeing that, we'll try to do better. And by reading Prabhupada's books and by hearing about all these great sages, we will see, oh, I'm not a great sage. These are the great sages. So the more we chant, the more we hear, and the more we serve, actually, the more unqualified we'll see we are. And that's the qualification becoming a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava actually never thinks they're highly qualified. A Vaishnava never thinks, I'm a great devotee. Actually, the real devotee thinks he's not even a devotee. Srila Prabhupada used to stand on line in the shower on 26 Second Avenue. He was they didn't know who he was. They called him Swamiji. That's what they started to call him, Swamiji. And he'd be standing like 10th on line to take a shower. That's back in the early days. So imagine Srila Prabhupada standing 10th in line to take a shower. How is that possible? But he was so humble, he didn't say anything, you see. And when they first started, Srila Prabhupada also, he was the deity. I was talking to an older godbrother who joined on in 26 Second Avenue. He was telling me, it's amazing that when Prabhupada was first there, it was just, he was the deity. There were no deities. There were no temples. There was nothing else. He'd come down, there'd be a little something in front of him on a little dais in Second Avenue, and there'd just be the disciplic succession, and there would be Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada was the deity, you see. There was no other conception of where we're going to go, big festivals, big houses, anything. Prabhupada was the deity. Why? Because he's Sakshad Hari. Sakshad Hari means that he's as good as God. He's directly receiving every bit of his information directly from God. He's not getting it from anybody else. He doesn't answer to anybody else. He's the guru. He's the Mahabhagwat. So because he's the Mahabhagwat and he's the guru, everything he does is his name is his divine grace. So everything that he's getting is coming directly from Krishna. It's not coming from somewhere else. So he doesn't answer. He definitely answers to someone, but it's not someone of this material world. So that's the movement that we are in. That's the line that we are in. We should be very proud to be in this line. It's unlimitedly, inconceivably, we are inconceivably fortunate to be in this line. To be in this line that Srila Prabhupada has given us is just inconceivable. So now we have to do something with it. Srila Prabhupada said, you become fortunate and then you make others fortunate. So the devotee, he's paradukkha dukhi, kripambudi. That means he's the most merciful. He's not satisfied just being Krishna conscious himself, but he wants to go give Krishna consciousness to others. They said to Srila Prabhupada, you must have been pretty enthusiastic. And Srila Prabhupada said, yeah, I must have been pretty enthusiastic. I came all the way across the ocean. So imagine how enthusiastic Prabhupada was to come all the way across the ocean. It's inconceivable. We have no conception of what he did. His tour of the world, his preaching of Krishna consciousness, it'll never be duplicated. He's the world acharya. He went everywhere in the world. He not only went everywhere in the world, at every second when his disciples would go out all over the world to preach, he knew where they were and he was empowering them to preach. That's the thing. Srila Prabhupada knew what was going on. Srila Prabhupada, because he was so empowered by Krishna, he knew what was happening as the preaching was happening. He had a plan. He actually said one time that he had a plan that he could take over the world in 18 days, but he didn't have anybody to do it with him, you see. So he had a small band of disciples to tag along and try to do something, but he said he could have taken over the world in 18 days. So we don't really know what the pure devotee can do. But he left, and then he left the rest of it to us. So that's what we have to be aspiring for. We have to aspire to be qualified. And the way we become qualified is by thinking that we're not qualified. As soon as we think we're qualified, or as soon as we want to jump over the guru, then we're finished. You see, we're actually finished. So we have to always keep ourselves in a very humble position. We have to keep ourselves in a very menial position. And we have to keep ourselves in a very subservient position. And in that way, we can maybe qualify ourselves to do something for the parampara. So that's what Prabhupada gave us. He gave us this process of hearing and chanting. It's very important to always hear and chant. We can't emphasize that enough. The Srimad Bhagavatam class every day is real important to hear. It's important to discuss the Bhagavatam. It's important because everything. Prabhupada said these temples were like, he said they were like bases where the devotees should go out. They're like commando bases where the devotees should go out and drop hundreds and millions of bombs on the conditioned souls. He said his books were like bombs, and when they go out, they explode. We don't know where they explode, or we don't know how they explode. They go their own way. We just have to put them out there. They have minds of their own. They're transcendental books. So Prabhupada said his temples are like bases where the devotees go out and they drop hundreds and millions of bombs on the conditioned souls. And by that repeated bombing, the conditioned souls need to wake up. So our society, the Krishna consciousness movement, it isn't a social service. It's not a material, mundane welfare activity. It's none of those things. We're doctors, but we're doctors in the spiritual sense. We're doctors in the sense that we're giving bhakti-yoga. So we're specialists in that sense. It's not that we're against hospitals or people taking care of other people. We need to take care of everyone very nicely. But at the same time, the devotees, the thing that Prabhupada set up, we are specialists. That means we're going to take care of giving you spiritual medicine. And the spiritual medicine is in Srila Prabhupada's books. So the more his books are glorified, the more his books are distributed, and the more that we're enthusiastic to even understand Srila Prabhupada's books, that will push back the age of Kali, which is making rapid advancement as we speak. So that's really what we're trying to do here. This is a temple. This temple is beautiful. It's very wonderful. It was started with great endeavor by Srila Prabhupada and his disciples. It was an incredible amount of work, an incredible amount of austerity that put this building together. And Prabhupada wanted all of his preachers to come anytime and get rejuvenated here. So rejuvenated means you come here, you learn about Krishna, you get so enthusiastic that you maybe can't even stay here. You have to go back. It's not that you go back because you don't like it here, but you like it so much that you want to bring the whole world here, because that's what Srila Prabhupada did. Everybody thought it was a joke, that he was just going to go out and they'd probably never hear of him again. But that's not the situation. Now everybody wants to come to Vrindavan. Why? Because everyone wants to be spiritual. Well, Srila Prabhupada knows what it means to be spiritual. So now that they're here in Vrindavan, if they listen to what Srila Prabhupada says, then everyone can become spiritual. Because that's how you get spiritual, is by associating with advanced devotees. So Srila Prabhupada was perfectly in that line. He perfectly has come down in that chain of disciplic succession, and he's giving a perfect, unadulterated, undiluted example of how to be Krishna conscious. There's no lack. Prabhupada said he didn't have any qualification. He said that the only qualification he had is that he didn't change anything that his spiritual master said. He said, I didn't deviate 1 inch from what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said. I didn't deviate an inch. Now that an inch isn't very much, but he didn't even deviate an inch. So that's what he said. And because of that, he said he got the mercy of his spiritual master. And he was able to do what nobody else did because he never deviated. You see, so we have to look, what is the order of the spiritual master? How far am I deviating? Is it an inch? Is it a mile? Is it a whole Father, we have to look. If we deviate, we're finished. If you look in Srila Prabhupada's books, lectures, and words, you'll see he always used, not always, but quite often used the provisional word if. It's not that everything was guaranteed. Srila Prabhupada a lot of times said if. If you do this, then this will happen. If you do this, this will happen. So he gave us opportunity, but he never guaranteed anything. He said if. So if you look in some of his letters and even in his books, he will say if. So if means you have to do something, you have to put your own self into it. So that's what he's saying. It's not guaranteed. Lord Chaitanya said that his name would be heard and chanted all over the world. That's what he said. So that's going to come true because who said that? Lord Chaitanya. And who is Lord Chaitanya? He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if he said that, that's going to happen. But how is it going to happen? That's a good question, you see. That's a real good question. It's not guaranteed. You see, it's not guaranteed. It'll only happen if there's no deviation. So if we don't deviate from what Srila Prabhupada says, then everything will be great. That's how the movement will be spread. Because the movement or the legacy, just like in 10 or 20 years, Prabhupada's direct disciples won't even be on the planet anymore. So then it's going to be the responsibility of the next generation of devotees to keep carrying on the movement. And then the next generation of devotees to keep carrying on the movement. The only thing, no one's going to have Prabhupada's personal association physically. He left the planet, you see. But it'll all be in his books and in the ability. With the order of the spiritual master comes the ability to follow that order. When the spiritual master gives an order, he'll never give an order that you can't follow. He'll give you an order so you can follow it. So within the order, the ability to follow the order comes there, but you have to find out what the order is, and then you have to want to follow it. So if you want to follow, because it's based on sincerity. It says that Krishna consciousness in the Nectar of Devotion says that Krishna consciousness is based on sincerity. That's the only thing. It's not material, mundane education. It's not beauty. It's not a whole bunch of money. It's none of those things. The only thing for advancing in Krishna consciousness is the desire for Krishna consciousness, is the desire for truth, you see. And if we keep looking for that truth and we keep wanting that truth, then Krishna, who's in our heart, and he's the self-sufficient philosopher who's been awarding all our desires since time immemorial, he knows what we want. You see, he knows what we want more than we do. It says that even before we offer prayers, Krishna is trying to deliver us. So he's always trying to deliver us. But we have to give him some help. We have to help him out because he wants us to come back. But we have to let him bring us back, you see. So that's where the simpleness comes in. We just have to become simple. Simple means sincere. Sincere. Sincere comes from a Greek word, sincere. Sire means to crack. So in Greek times, they used to have these big statues. And in the big statues, people used to barter with the statues. They used to trade statues. And the only way they could really get any money for a really good statue was that it didn't have any cracks in it. And if a statue didn't have a crack, then it was called sire. It was without crack. And so, okay, I'll give you a lot of money. That's a beautiful statue. And so in that way, that's where the word sincere comes from. So sincere means no cracks. So we have to become no cracks. We have to give up our cracks. You see, we have to give up our motivations. We have to give up our ulterior motives. We have to give up our own desires. And we have to become selfless. That's what bhakti-yoga is all about. And that's what Vaidhi Bhakti is especially about. It has to be done in awe and reverence. We can't skip over to the higher stages. We have to earn it. We have to get it the old-fashioned way, is earn it. So earn it means we intensely get into this morning program. We get up, we come to the morning program, we go to Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi, we go through the whole morning program, and then we do some seva. You see, we just do what Prabhupada said to do. And if we do that sincerely, then we're guaranteed to actually get the desired result. But without that, there's no guarantee. So we shouldn't be in the mood of, we've already made it. We should be in the mood of, I wonder if I'll make it. We should actually be a little scared. or even a lot scared. It's okay. It says a devotee doesn't have any fear. A real devotee has no fear. But the only fear of a devotee is dvitiya. Dvitiya means deviation or some kind of maya coming in. So that's real fear, but that's good. It's good to have some fear. A devotee's not overconfident. You see, until we're fully liberated, what do we have to be confident about? Just like in mundane sports, sometimes a team runs up a big score and then they celebrate real fast. And then the other team comes back and beats them. So that's called celebrating too soon. You see, so we don't have anything, in some terms, we don't really have anything to celebrate right now. There's nothing to celebrate until we become pure devotees. You see, so that's the mood that we should be in. The mood is, I have to become pure. How can I serve? We should be competing, but our competition should be for service. You see, it's not for position, it's not for aggrandizement, it's not for anything. We should be competing to be servants. That's what servants mean. Prabhupada said we call one another Prabhu. Prabhu means you're my master. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he used to pay his obeisances to his disciples and say, Dasosmi. So when he came in, he actually thought that Krishna, the Mahabhagavat actually sees everybody as serving Krishna better than him. He sees even everybody. He just sees everybody as serving Krishna better than he is. What a conception. We have no idea. So that's the way. We have to become humble servants. You see, das and a das, far removed. We have to try to remove ourselves. In the material world, everyone's trying to put themselves forward. In the spiritual world, everyone's trying to remove themselves. Even in this, we know in Krishna Lila, everyone's not going to trying to get to Krishna Lila to just directly serve Krishna. That's not what you do when you go to Krishna Loka. You just go there to be real far removed. And the happiness that we'll experience in that situation is even greater than the happiness that Radha and Krishna experience together. You see, but it's a spiritual conception. So we're not very attuned, we're not very tuned in to the spiritual conception. We're just learning, you see. So we have to kind of wipe out. Actually, Prabhupada said he came to America first because the Americans didn't have any preconceptions. He said the Americans were good for becoming Krishna conscious because they didn't have any preconceptions. We didn't know what demigods were. We didn't know this. We didn't know that. We didn't know anything. We just knew the material world was burning us out and that there had to be something better than this, you see. So Prabhupada knew where his customers were. Prabhupada was a great mystic yogi. So even before he came to America, he knew what was going to happen. We can't think Prabhupada was just, he didn't just luck up, it wasn't luck, you see. It says one should never think that the spiritual master is an ordinary person. So even though Srila Prabhupada had some seemingly ordinary pastimes, we should never think that those are ordinary material pastimes. They're not. Those are the pastimes of a fully God-realized soul who came from Krishna Loka. So everything Prabhupada knew. He was sitting on that bench and he said he knew that his disciples were there. He knew the temples were there. He already knew all these things. He had all the mystic powers. You get mystic powers at Brahman realization. What to speak of Mahabhagavat realization? Prabhupada had unlimited mystic powers. We don't know what he knew. He was just acting like he was acting. It's none of our business what he knew in some ways. But that's the thing. So Prabhupada, he knew exactly what he was doing. He had a plan exactly how to spread Krishna consciousness. We just have to get into that plan. We have to look at the plan again. We have to find out what the plan is. And then we just have to do the plan. And if we just do it, everything will come out very nicely. So it's a very ecstatic program that, Prabhupada's engaging us in. So I think I'll stop there. Are there any questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you for the class. You mentioned that Lord Chaitanya is inundating. So in the inundation, everyone gets washed away. And the pure devotees giving the blessings and mercy is available. How do we see, how much of it is our own endeavor and our own work, and how much of it is actually mercy? How do the two work together? Like the kind of inundating, Prabhupada
That's a good question. Yeah, it's not magic. You see, it's not magic. It says in the Nectar of Devotion that one should go to school and then try to earn a degree in the proper way. And if some honorary degree is given, that's given sometimes. But it's not a magical thing that you can just go touch some dust, some fairy dust. Or Prabhupada didn't teach like that. So he taught that both things should be there. Hard work, bhakti-yoga, hard work, not lazy. Everybody should be engaged in Krishna's service. It's not karma mimamsa philosophy. In karma mimamsa, the people think, oh, God is obligated. If I just go do something, then God has to give it to me. So it's not that God has to give it to me. He doesn't have to give it to me even if I do the work or even if I engage in bhakti-yoga. But that's where bhakti-yoga comes, that's where the faith comes in. So if we're actually going to the right source, if we actually have a bona fide spiritual master, then the mercy will come because he wants to give the mercy. Prabhupada said, just like a father, he wants to give the son his inheritance, but he wants to make sure that the son is qualified. If he gives him something and he's not qualified, sometimes the son goes out and then he spends all the money and he doesn't really realize it, and then he doesn't have any money. So sometimes the father, he'll go and give the son a little bit of money and see if he can go do something, this is materially, and see if he can go do something with it, and then when he comes back and he increases it, then he'll give him more. So Prabhupada said that he wants to give everyone. He said, one time Vishnu Jan said to Srila Prabhupada that, that he was giving him, that Prabhupada had so much mercy. And Prabhupada said, no, he said, you are just taking my mercy. So we have to learn how to take the Guru's mercy. He's there, he's giving his mercy to everyone. He wants to give, but we have to receive. Receive means we have to open ourselves. Open ourselves means engaging in the 9 practices. We can't say, Prabhupada said, giving loves doing. He also said, just like a wife and a husband, if the wife is serving the husband or the husband serving the wife, they're doing something for one another. You can't say, I love you, but I don't do anything. So there's that old saying, actions speak louder than words. So in your actions, you're showing me, oh, I love you, but I won't take care of you. Oh, I really love Krishna, but I won't do this. So in acting, that's how Prabhupada showed that he loved Krishna more than anybody else. Because look what he did for Krishna. He just loved Krishna right till his last breath. So that's Prabhupada's mood. It's not that we just get some honorary degree and we just think, oh, I just want Krishna, I just want Krishna. And it's just magic. You see, that's cheap. Prabhupada never preached cheap philosophy. He always preached, we get it. We have to earn it. You see, we have to earn it. So it comes from him and he doesn't have to give it, but we do have to earn it. That's the way Dharma actually means gratitude. Real Dharma, there's no such thing as Dharma, which is religion. Real religion means gratitude. If you don't have gratitude, then you don't have Dharma. So gratitude means what? It means that you're awake to all the things that you've gotten. We owe so many responsibilities to so many people for what we've gotten. So in the Vedic literature, the idea of Dharma was there. The idea of gratitude is there. So look with the spiritual master. The debt to the spiritual master can never be repaid. But Prabhupada said you can try to repay it. You can try. So that's what the disciple is doing. He never thinks, oh, look at this. Now I've just repaid the debt. No, it's how can you repay the debt for getting pulled out of the material world? How can you repay the debt for getting taken out of this nescience? There's no way to repay that debt. So that's the way the devotee thinks. Of course, it's based on practical activity, 9 processes of devotional service. And we should be engaged. One of the qualifications of an advanced devotee is that they're always engaged in some devotional service. They don't want to waste even a second of yarta kalatvam. That means they want to always be. Time is very, the commodity of time is very, very precious. And if we lose even a second, we can't buy it back. So that's the way the devotee thinks. He's in anxiety that he'll waste some time or lose time, you see. So everybody doesn't have to, everyone has a different psychophysical makeup, so they can do different things, but everyone should be engaged according to their psychophysical makeup so that they're happily engaged in engaging all of their time in Krishna's service. And in that, that's the Goswamis gave up eating and sleeping. So that would be the answer. Hare Krishna.
As you explained about the Vedic market, what describes the Vedic on purpose and also like about this topic. Because it seems when we heard that it's Asia and some other people, actually it could be that via this Asia. Generally, worship of the Lord begins with the worship of Narayan, obviously, whereas the worship of Lord Krishna and Radha is most confidential. It's from 4 to
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to listen.
Lord Narayan is worshipable by the Pancharatrika Vedas or regulatory principles, whereas Lord Krishna is worshipable by Bhagavad-Gita. No one can worship the Lord in the Bhagavad-Gita without going through the regulations of Pancharatrika Vedas. Actually, neophyte devotees worship the Lord according to Pancharatrika Vedas, but the regulatory principles enjoined in the Radha Pancharatrika. Radha Krishna can be approached by the neophyte devotees. Therefore, temple worship according to regulatory principles is offered to Lakshmi Narayan. Although there may be a Radha Krishna Vigraha or form, the worship of the neophyte devotees is acceptable as Lakshmi Narayan worship. Worship according to Pancharatrika Vedas is called Vidimart. Worship according to Bhagavad-Gita principles is called Ragamarga. The principles of Ragamarga especially meant for devotees to elevate to the Vrindavan of Love. This one short part. Without serving Krishna according to Vidimart regulatory principles of the Pancharatrika Vedas, unscrupulous persons want to jump immediately to the Ragamarga principles. Such persons are called Sarajya. There are also demons who enjoy depicting Krishna and his pastimes to the devotees, taking advantage of Krishna by their basis character. These demons who print books and write lyrics on the Ragamarga principles are surely on the way to hell. Unfortunately, they lead others down with them. Devotees in Krishna consciousness should be very careful to avoid such demons. One should strictly follow the Vidimart regulatory principles in the worship of Lakshmi Narayan. Although the Lord is present in a temple as Radha Krishna. Radha Krishna includes Lakshmi Narayan. Therefore, when one worships the Lord according to the regulatory principles, the Lord accepts the service in the role of Lakshmi Narayan. In the nature of devotion, full instructions are given about Vidimart worship of Radha Krishna and Lakshmi Narayan. Although there are 64 kinds of offenses one can commit Vidimart worship, Ragamarga worship, there is no consideration of such offenses because the devotees on the platform, that platform are very much elevated. And there is no question of offense. But if we do not follow the regulatory principles on the Vidimart platform and keep our eyes trained to spot offenses, we will not make progress.
It's nice. So, is there a question or just telling me that?
I just feel it would be nice to read this because it's in line of what you were speaking.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, I feel also very much that what you were saying, Vidimart is so much important and we shouldn't jump over and then you do the morning program inside. Nowadays it can happen that we take this morning program very light. It's not light, it's very heavy program. It's Manga articles. 4:30 you engage and then till 9.
Yeah.
So it's not like, okay, this is, I did it, I'm devoted for 10, 15 years. I
Right.
know that
Right.
like this.
That's a danger.
It's not for doing. It's I mean, it's, how to say, it's keeping us healthy and then giving us a boost to yourself.
Yeah, it explains that even if a devotee becomes advanced, they don't give up first of all, they keep the other thing to themselves. They keep their personal relationship pretty much to themselves. And they still act, look what Srila Prabhupada did. You know, he didn't have to do that, but he did it. You know, so he went into intense, bhakti-yoga. Of course, he wasn't a Vaidhi Bhakti, he was a Mahabhagavad. But for us, who are we to think that we've gotten, where have we really gotten? One time a devotee asked Srila Prabhupada about falling from a platform. They said, well, I think I fell from this platform. And Prabhupada said, what platform? You're not on any platform. So what platform do we think we're on that we've fallen from? We're on the ground. We're coming from about as low as you can get. Our only qualification for Prabhupada taking us is that we were real fallen. So that's our platform. He took the most fallen first, you see. So now we have to live up to it. But yeah, we can't give up Vidhi Marg. That's not Prabhupada's mood. Prabhupada's mood is to just, if you're higher than Vidhi Marg, okay, but you're not trying to artificially promote something else. You're just staying on the sadhana bhakti. And the ecstasies or the bhavas or anything else that's coming to you, that's coming because you're such a nice representative of Srila Prabhupada and the program that he gave. That's an advanced devotee. An advanced devotee is someone who follows Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada's the world acharya. Someone looked at a picture of Srila Prabhupada, someone who does physiology. Physiology is a big thing in the Vedic times. Even Krishna and Krishna and Balaram learned the art of physiology with Sandipani Muni. But so they knew that. This person looked at Srila Prabhupada's picture and they said that he carries the whole disciplic succession. They just saw his face. He carries everybody. He's the acharya for the age because he's given everything. He's not taking Diksha disciples anymore because he's not on the planet. So he doesn't take Diksha. His Diksha is gone. He initiated a certain amount of Diksha disciples when he was here on the planet. He doesn't have any more Diksha disciples once he left the planet. But he's still a Shiksha Guru. And actually Shiksha Guru is same thing as Diksha Guru. It says that except their functions are different. So there's no real difference between a Diksha Guru and a Shiksha Guru. So Srila Prabhupada, and it says, just by reading Prabhupada's books, you can also become perfect. So theoretically, someone could even get one of Prabhupada's books and go back to Godhead even if they weren't initiated. That's how powerful Prabhupada's books are. So yes, we are on the neophyte platform. It's sometimes the lure will be to kind of dub ourselves or give ourselves credentials that we've raised ourselves to some higher platform. That's a very scary and dangerous thing. Actually, a Madhyamadikari is a very advanced devotee. A Madhyamadikari is a very advanced devotee. Not even an Uttamadikari, but a Madhyamadikari. So one shouldn't act above his adhikar. If one acts above his adhikar, that's also offensive. If one doesn't live up to his adhikar, that's also offensive. Adhikar means eligibility. Eligibility. We are only eligible for so much. So we have to learn what is our eligibility and then act on our eligibility. And if we act on our eligibility, that's how we make advancement. But if we act on the eligibility or we act on a false platform, that's not good. That's called cheating. That means we cheat ourselves and we cheat everybody else. Because bhakti-yoga is based on honesty, you see. It's totally one of the greatest qualities of a brahmana is truthfulness, satyam. Brahman needs satyam. You don't have satyam, you don't have brahman. No satyam, no brahman. And Prabhupada said, I didn't have to use the cheating method. When I came to America, I didn't have to cheat. He didn't cheat at all. Prabhupada didn't. He cheated us out of our material desires. That's the only thing he cheated us out of. But he didn't cheat us out of anything else, you see. So we have to be truthful. So your question is exactly, what's the,
The question is,
what was it,
can you comment
what was it like then, or?
on how the proper structure of our society should work for maximum
What?
progress?
That's a big question for me to answer. If I had that, yeah, if I had that answer, then I'd be a really sought after person, which I'm not. But yeah, basically, yeah, I can tell you how it was in the beginning, in a sense. And I wasn't there I joined in '71. So it was very simple then because it wasn't a big organization. So there was Srila Prabhupada, he had the temple president, he had a secretary and a treasurer, and basically everybody worked under those people. It wasn't perfect. It was by no means perfect, but because Prabhupada was on the planet and he was the only guru there, then it was easier to catch something if it went off the rails. If something went off the rails, everybody knew that Prabhupada was, that old saying, when the cat's away, the mice will play. So, you always knew Prabhupada was within some kind of a distance. So that chain of command was very much respected more. Now that it's a bigger movement, there's more gurus, it's just a huge, it's a huge organizational situation. It's not as easy to break down and really come up with a solution on how, it should actually be, at least for me, to be really, worked out, unless you gave me a specific way in how it can be. I mean, you do have to read the books. If you're reading the books, if you're reading Prabhupada's books, the Bhakti-yoga, yogi, like it says in the Isha-Upanishad, that if you say, is this a Vedic injunction, then someone will say, you should do this. And if someone says, well, is it a Vedic injunction? The person says, yes, this is what it is. Okay, then I'll do it. So really it has to be based on, did Prabhupada tell us to do it? And you have to be at least aware of that. If someone tells you to do something that's clearly not what Prabhupada came up with, then you have a responsibility to go through your chain of command and your chain of authorities, but you can question. It's an open movement. It's supposed to be an open movement where, most of the people that are in the movement are adults. So people want open communication. It's not something that you shouldn't be able to go and find out about. So you go to your authority, you go to the person, you have your question, whatever it is. If he satisfies you and it's shastric, it's logical, then you do it, But the movement's gotten bigger, the movement's gotten more, it's grown into more of an ashram system where many people are living outside the temple. Prabhupada said that also, that many devotees wouldn't live in the temples anymore. So that presents a different type of a challenge, that people aren't living within the confines of an actual temple, because that's all we were doing back in the day. There was no outside devotees. Everybody was inside the organization living in the temple. So it was in some ways, a lot simpler. Now it's everybody has their own, people are living outside and they have their own families and their own considerations. So it's actually harder. It's harder for the managers sometimes to even come up with, appropriate ways to engage everybody. But the real thing I would say is that it has to be based on Shastra. As long as wherever you are, if everything's being done according to Shastra, then that's what you should want. That's how it means to keep staying in tune with Srila Prabhupada, is that it's in tune with Shastra. You just have to keep wanting that. And if that doesn't happen, then that's not so good. But it's different now. It's just a bigger worldwide organization than it used to be. Any other questions or comments? Haribol. Question? Oh, okay, good. Haribol. Hare Krishna.